we're back for another episode of Usapang Musiko Season 2. And for today's episode, I want to talk about coping with burnout. Yeah. So, a lot of musicians are tend to get burned out, no? And what do we need to do, or why does it keep happening to a lot of us? And we'll talk about coping mechanisms and things that you can do. This is coming from my personal experience, so it's all opinion based. You can add yours in the comments down below if you want to share your experience with these types of situations. Okay, so first things first, what is burnout? No, so I like to think about it in the taking it almost literally. No, like the engine of a car, for example, gets burnt out through how? Overuse. The use over time and the abuse it takes for the machine. No? I mean, as human beings, we are not machines. And the thing is, repetition kills the artistry or creativity in us. And thus, that's what happens. That's why you get burnt out because of what's happening is becoming too repetitive for your liking or for your taste. I believe that getting burnt out isn't for musicians, isn't about you losing interest in the art per se or what you are doing because when you play half the time or most of the time you enjoy what you're doing, especially if there's no pressure. So I think we get burnt out not because it's directly affected by the way we are playing, but more importantly, because we're affected by what's happening around us. I hear stories of people losing interest in the things that they love, not because they don't love what they do, it's because other people or the circumstances or the environment is behind all those suffering that they feel. Uh, It's the same thing as maybe a computer in an air conditioned room won't overheat if it stays there for how long, as long as it's well taken care of. But if your computer is outside in a hot sunny day, of course it will overheat. The same thing goes with our passions or the things that we do. If there are external factors affecting what we're doing, that's gonna cause us to burn out or even lose interest in the things that we used to love. No? And I think it's based on fear and social anxiety. Can we call it that? I don't know. About the things that are happening around us. No? Sometimes it's not really the music. For example, a lot of artists get to this point where they don't want to create anymore. Not because they don't like what they do, but because society is pushing them to create more than what they need to or what they want, no? Or other people don't like to perform anymore because they got burnt out by, having too much concerts, no? Having too much performances. So, they get tired of it. It's the same thing as injuring yourself. When you're injured, in music, it doesn't mean that you got into an accident. Most of the time, it's because your body is being torn apart by overuse. So I think it stems down, burning out stems down from overusing whatever part of your body. Because again, as artists, we want to be free. We want to be spontaneous. We want to do what we want and not be told to do anything that, you know, that's why you're not effective in a 9 to 5 job setting, or you don't do well by being told what is asked of you to be done. That's just how it is. That's how musicians, that's how artists think. And if you get burnt out by doing what you love, maybe you have to also think about what's happening outside of why, or just looking at it at the surface that you just don't like it, because there will always be a reason behind you not liking what you're doing if you've been doing it for so long. No? So it's not always about the main thing. Sometimes it's external factors outside. No? I'm speaking again from my experience. Because sometimes I do feel the same way. Like sometimes I don't want to work. Sometimes I don't want to create content for YouTube or do covers. Sometimes I just want to sit back and relax. No? It happens to the best of us. But the thing is, I don't consider that uh like a reminder for me to stop. It's just that you just need space to really grow. Again, I always talk about resting and recovery because it's a cycle. We always think that we just need to work and work and work and work and work and then results will happen. No. Sometimes you need to step back. Sometimes after doing so much hard work, you need to reward yourself with whatever you want other than music, for example. Uh, I see a lot of people say that so that they can avoid burnouts, they tend to schedule a day without practice. I think it's a good idea, but to limit yourself is totally different. Sometimes if you just tell yourself that I don't want to practice because I might burn myself out, I don't think so. Uh, I try to put it in this perspective. If you like what you're doing, you won't stop. No one can stop you from doing that. It's the same thing as I don't know, borderline addiction. You can call it that. If you really love practicing, we know people who practice 7 to 8 hours a day, not because they want to practice 7 or 8 hours a day. They just get carried away with what they are doing. And that one's fine if you're not forcing it to happen. That's the thing for me. If you're forcing yourself to practice 7, 8 hours a day, that's when you get burned out. Because there are circumstances that don't want you to be there. And you're just plowing through them. There are certain reasons why you have to be awake a certain number of hours in a day. It's because you can do more than just stay in a room and practice. And again, as musicians, you need, or as artists in general, you need that space to be human in order for you to create better. You don't just need a break so that you don't suffer physically or mentally or whatever. You need the break because it's part of the process. Eh? Like for athletes, they always have recovery times. No? For now, I think if you're following the sports world, there's a lot of new innovations when it comes to sleep, resting, recoveries. All those things. They've been doing it for so long now. And the thing is, musicians should behave like that as well, so that they don't get burnt out or they don't risk themselves having injuries. Diba? Have time for yourself to think about what you're doing other than playing music, because again, you may be an artist but you're human first. Your art makes you human, but you are human first. You have to understand that. And to cope up with burnouts, it's a hard thing to do because sometimes it's fueled by, your loss of passion is fueled by fear or anxiety around the society you grew up into. That's why you stop, not because you wanted to, but the people around you wanted you to, or because you're putting so much pressure on yourself that it just burns you out. No? Because sometimes it's not always about the circumstances around you. Sometimes it's within you, naman, and that's the same thing with only different circumstances. And you are always in control. I really believe that you can always control what you want to do. So listen to yourself and listen to your body as well. You have to understand that it's not always good to be so focused because you're losing out on the world, because you need to look into what you are doing with the perspective of a human being doing these things. No? So you get burned out because you're doing too much. You're putting so much pressure on you. And if you understand the reason why you're doing it, because it's fun, because you love it. And I think that's the best reason to be doing something, because you love it, because you enjoy it. And if you go back to those reasons, maybe it would help you cope up better with your burnout. No? And of course, if you are a professional, and then you, with the circumstances we are in right now, it gets really sad. It gets really depressing. And I totally would understand why people leave the industry, or what leave what they're doing to go do other things. Sometimes it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, to move on from something that you've been doing for all your life. But yeah, you can always come back to it. That's the thing. You may take a break, may do something different just to cope up, just to survive, but you can always come back to it. And that's beautiful, right? Even though you're burnt out, even though the circumstances aren't good, no one's here to judge you if you come back to it, because it's just doing what you need, doing what you want, doing what you love. Yeah? And of course, you have to take it slowly, slowly but surely. No? Time could help. Uh, you can always go back anytime to whatever you want to do, no? Whether that's painting, that's sculpture, that's music. No? Because right now, I think for a lot of those musicians, you don't have any drive to practice, right? Because there's nothing to preparing for. But the thing is, you always have to be in tip top shape, just because it's what you do. People pay you to do it, no? And you, the best reason to just go back to what you want is because you love it. No? And to cope up with burnouts is really, really hard, because the pace will always depend on the person, not the circumstance. So it will depend on you, not anyone else. And of course, if you really can't do it on your own, seek help. You can always get help from people around you. Those people you trust, the people you love, the people who understand what you're going through. Yeah? You can always talk to them, try and reach out. No? And if you are one of those people who's afraid of reaching out, maybe if you have friends that you can really trust, try to talk to them, contemplate whatever you're going through. Mm. I had friends like that during this time, especially those who are still studying, who think that they can't do it, but they will. They need to. That's another thing I try to tell the people. I don't know if it's gonna help, but you need to, because you're already here. No, but if you don't want to, it's also fine. No, you don't have to go back when people want you to come back. You don't have to practice when people want you to practice. You have to do it for yourself, so that you don't get back to that downward spiral that you went through if you're burnt out. No? Yeah. So you have to understand yourself first. Be aware of what you want, be aware of what you need to do, and understand those types of things are really, really important. Because if you understand that, if you understand how your mind works, how your body works, it's gonna be easier for you to do. No? I know I always say that it should be clockwork, like how you practice or those things. But if practicing makes you feel weird, makes you feel that anxiety, maybe you have to recharge and reimagine your practice habits. Because at the end of the day, music, every skill that you learn is about building good habits, good, effective, and efficient habits. Because if you don't build on those habits, maybe you're doing something nice, but it's not effective for you. You're doing something, a different strategy from what other people are doing, but it's better for you, or it's the best situation for you. I think go do that. No? there's no right or wrong way in coping or understanding ourselves. We're humans. We're always down to uh reimagine, recreate ourselves. We have that a freedom to think freely, openly, rationalize things. And as we do, we discover more of ourselves. We understand why we're feeling this way, why we lose interest, why we lose passion over some things. And you have the control to repair those things. And it's in you to be able to cope up with whatever feeling you may feel right now. And yeah, times are tough right now. And I don't know if it's gonna get better soon, but hopefully it does. And I hope you're still here for the ride, guys. So if you're feeling burnt out right now, relax. Take a step away and look at the bigger picture. Look at the things that you were doing. Now, if it doesn't spark that joy, the same joy that's happening, but you still want to be there, reinvent yourself, reimagine yourself, do something different about it. And if that doesn't work, call a friend, call someone you trust, someone you love, someone you care about. But it always goes down to your decisions. No, it's the same thing as addiction. It's the same thing. Uh, the circumstances might change, but it's what you do with it. No, I don't want to really say be addicted to what you're doing, but it should always make you happy. I know it's not always happy, especially if you're practicing. There's a lot of frustrations, but the thing about music and art in general is that the process is what you want. The process is the end goal technically. No? The times you spend practicing, the time you spend working on something, that's 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 the end goal. To just create, just do it. No? And if you're feeling that you can't do it right now, it's fine. No one's gonna judge you. Take your time and you'll be back on track soon. All right, so I will end this episode here. Hope you learned something new and you got something for you. Of course, if you want to share your thoughts, comment down below and check me out on Sessions Live. Check out my course on Udemy. Follow me on all my socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And of course, Anchor Podcasts. Check out my Fiverr, by the way. I still arrange tracks and music for anyone here. And check out my single and album on Spotify out now. I hope you enjoyed this one. This has been Ryan Monakil for Usapang Musiko Season 2, and I'll see you on the next one.